Going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean7904 if you want to get all technical on me. That is the handle around the DFS industry. 5:30 on the dot on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, 9 games, 3-man booth, rolling out the big boys today. Batting first, leading off the CEO of the Blitz and the Bat. It's Derek Carty. What up, Carty? How are things in your world?
Pretty good, celebrated the 4th yesterday, back on the horse today.
Did you watch Joey Chestnut?
I did not. I saw he ate a lot of hot dogs, but I did not watch him eat said hot dogs.
Have you ever ventured? You're not too far from Coney Island, I imagine. I don't know. How far away is have you ever considered watching it live and in person? The athleticism right in front of you?
Yeah, I've thought about it, but it's a long way to go. Traffic's probably a mess. It's not as close as you think.
Yeah, and it's hot. It's hot outside.
It's hot. There's better things to do on 4th of July, I think, than to drive up there and watch. I mean, I think it would be cool to watch, but this hasn't been a priority, I guess.
The announcers, just amazing. The hyperbole they use. They compare Joey Chestnut to like the Michael Jordan of eating. It's just like they run down the accolades. It's just so hilarious. It's tongue in cheek. But there are better things to do, like blowing up fireworks like midnight. Are you one of those guys, Carty, that's still blowing up fireworks at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning? And
no, I'm not a fireworks guy. Animals hate fireworks. They get so scared. I'm not doing that.
Stevie, what's up, Stevie? Do you have an official take on this? Are you one of those guys? Are you one of those guys that are giving like yelling at the clouds? Like what? And also, who's the guy recording the firework? What's the percentage of people that rewatch the firework display? Like whoever does that. And every firework display is exactly the same. You've seen them one time. Stevie, what's going on? I don't want to go on a whole firework rant, but did you partake? Did you watch Joey Chestnut? How was your weekend?
I did not watch Joey Chestnut. It was happening during the same time as like qualifying for NASCAR, so I was really busy with work. I worked yesterday, Some of us have to work. Gosh. But no, man, I had a good weekend. NASCAR crushed. It was an awesome weekend for NASCAR. Like, I think we had 20 people hit for at least $5,000 this weekend in the NASCAR package. So it was a big weekend. And I mean, yeah.
Were you one of them?
I won 2 tournaments on FanDuel. So it was a good weekend.
There you go. Nicely done. The people, I'm sure at this point, they're aware. You want to give them the information as far as the package? They should know at this, I would imagine, but I guess it can't hurt. Let them know.
I mean, you just go to premium here at Rotogrinders. It's like premium NASCAR, weekly price and a season-long price. But yeah, it's been rolling. Like we're really hot right now. I know Derek doesn't like hot streaks, but we are on a hot streak right now. I think we have like 6 or 7 races in a row where we've just absolutely been smashing over there. So hopefully we can keep it going.
That's not a hot streak. That's just being a boss.
Yeah. Oh well, all right. Well, I'll take it.
Are we like in the middle of the season? I never really know when NASCAR season ends and begins. I feel like it's almost like year round. How many is it basically year round or not exactly?
We're like halfway right now. The All-Star race just happened. We're like it just switched from Fox to NBC. So we're like kind of halfway right now.
Boy, nobody asked me about my weekend. I passed a kidney stone. That was a lot of fun.
That's awful.
That is not advisable. You guys ever had? I do not advise if you're in the business of or you're thinking about it.
I have had one. Yeah, awful.
Oh yeah, that was my weekend, and I just kind of slept on Sunday. And the Saturday that was me in the ER, and that was good times as well. But hey, you know what?
Sleep on Sunday, buddy, because everybody was shooting off fireworks.
Well, I slept in, and then whatever. I mean, I heard it. It was loud, and I don't want to be the guy. if your kids have a good time, enjoy yourself. But like the 40-year-old that's like blowing up like the rockets. It's like, sir, at what point does this get boring to you? Why is this exciting? You just saw it 20 times. We got to see it 21st time. Whatever. Enjoy. I'm not here to yell at the clouds.
Listen, you can like I'm good with fireworks until about 10 o'clock. Like at 10 o'clock, it just gets to the point where it's like, why are you still shooting off fireworks?
I just think that they're mostly lame. And firework technology has not improved since like 1978. Like whatever, the internet, like cars, so many things have vast, television, and then fireworks, basically the same, more or less the same show. I'll get off my rant. Hey, who cares about fireworks? Who cares about yesterday? Because we're talking about today and today only. It's DFS. You talk about your the NASCAR package. If you guys want to get the package here at Rotogrinders, you can get one sport only. We'll go ahead and drop that link in chat for you guys. Baseball, sure, you can have that. You get all the sports. Either way, $10 off your first month. We'll go ahead and drop the link in chat. We show off some of the tools, just a few of the tools, as we're talking. Obviously, in the background, Devin, multitasking producer extraordinaire. You'll also be grabbing your questions. He's always showing off some of the tools we have here, but you can use them at your own leisure. Again, $10 off the first month. Go ahead and click that link. Cardi, this is a really straightforward slate, is it not? I feel like it's super straightforward. We have a win game in Coors, not elite
Wrigley,
pitching.
but yeah, same deal.
It's basically turns in the Coors, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. I think we're at 11.5 as far as the total, and also 2 bad pitchers too, which is worth noting. Yeah. It's not just it's like a great hitting environment and the wind's blowing out and it's hot, but the pitchers aren't. Matt Moore is like the oldest. I think he's only 32. He feels like the oldest 32-year-old playing baseball. I thought he was distinctly older than that. I was curious how old he was. How are you attacking this slate tonight? Because we're gonna break it down. Pitchers first, obviously, but just give me the overall screenshot.
It's like you said, we have this Wrigley game with wind blowing out, and 2 okay offenses and 2 bad pitchers, and stolen base potential against one of the pitchers, and like the prices are way too low, especially on the Phillies side. So you're attacking it that way, and then you're filling in around it. And honestly, you can go just a full-on Wrigley stack in cash games and not play a single batter from another game, and you'd be fine. Pitching, there's a few options, but I think there's a couple that really stick out above the rest. It drops off pretty quickly.
Yeah, we got Atlanta in Pittsburgh. Nice matchup against the Jong. Obviously, the ballpark's not necessarily ideal. Some interesting notes as far as players in and players out. We don't have the Washington lineup, but Schwarber on the IL, we're expecting him out, and Trey Turner, we're expecting him out as well tonight. So that's going to be a bump. The Musgrove, we'll talk about him shortly. One of those pitchers I think you alluded to. And there's another lineup that's super weak as well. Minnesota, no Boomstick. Nelly Cruz is out of that lineup. Josh Donaldson's out of that lineup. And I think there's a third person too. Is there a third person out of that Minnesota lineup? I'm kind of staring at it right now. I feel like it's missing somebody. It's bad. Arise, Larnick, Polanco, Kirilloff, Kepler, Sano, Gordon, Rortfurt, and Andrelton Simmons. Andrelton Simmons, no matter how bad that lineup gets, he still can't get out of that 9-hole. Oh, man. Good
need to trade him to the Angels. Joe Madden will slot him in cleanup right away. Day one.
Listen, didn't Madden have him? I know he was there. Is he not under the Madden regime?
I don't think he was. This is Madden's second year. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get a trade at some point. Stevie, your screenshot as far as this, like obviously in tournaments, that was kind of a cascade perspective. In tournaments, you can be different, and there are some good spots. We can pick on John Lester with some Padres for sure. That's a vulnerable spot to exploit. Kansas City against Gutierrez. Gutierrez has looked pretty terrible so far this season. Pretty big team total as well. Your general thoughts as far as this slate, Steve, before we kind of dive in as far as the pitchers.
I think pitching is kind of what it is. There's a few good options and there's a lot of terrible options. So I feel like you're just kind of getting your pitchers today and then looking for some low-owned stacks. There's a few stacks out there that we're going to talk about that should come in at really low ownership that's in good spots. I mean, like Cardi said, if you're playing cash games today, just stack Wrigley. It doesn't get much better. It's 90 degrees and it's 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight to center field. You pull up the weather edge from Kevin Roth and you see hitting weather doesn't get much better than this. So, and we have 2 average at best pitchers pitching in Wrigley today. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to potentially get different with bats, but I feel like pitching is kind of what it is today.
I just pulled it up. Kevin Ross weather edge on the fly here. 79 game sample. It doesn't take into account who's playing, who's throwing, the player's talent, ability, any of that. Just 79 previous games with this, weather, with this particular weather that we have going on tonight. And we've seen a bump in home runs at 52.9%, a bump in runs at 35.7%, and a bump in ERA at 34%, 13 miles per hour as far as the wind blowing out to center field, dead center field, 87 as far as the temperature, game time, 62 dew point if you're a dew point guy. All right, Cardi, I think one of the big decisions is, and like I was messing around with this before the show, making a cash game on DK, and it was sort of tricky because I wanted to get Woodruff, and Woodruff cost you one of those big bats in Wrigley. So yeah, you see the same predicament that I see.
I don't see it as a predicament. I mean, if you can, like, in a world without a salary cap, we would get Brandon Woodruff. But Dean, I don't know if you've heard this before. We live in a world with a salary cap.
What?
And Woodruff is like almost $2K more than Joe Musgrove, and that's, I mean, there's just no reason to spend that much in cash games when you have Musgrove there. Like, they're comparably talented pitchers. Woodruff's matchups is a little better. Musgrove has a little bit longer of a leash. But Musgrove's in a good matchup too. Like you said, Schwarber is he's not on a hot streak anymore. Stevie will attest to this. Kyle Schwarber not on a hot streak because
what happens when you pull your groin.
So like, this is not going to be a full strength Washington lineup. It doesn't project like a super good lineup. And so I have no problem just taking the savings on Musgrove and getting that extra big Wrigley bat, because Musgrove and Woodruff project like almost exactly the same. Woodruff projects better, but not almost 2K better.
Yeah, I mean, Woodruff's got the lowest Sierra on the slate, the highest K rate, but it is close. Like, Musgrove's at 3.22 as far as the Sierra. Woodruff's at 3.11. Woodruff 31% Ks, 30% Ks for Musgrove. They're both in the National League. And also, you mentioned Schwarber, also Turner. Like, Turner's going to be out too. So that Washington lineup, it's in the West Coast, so we don't have a project. We don't have the official lineup, but we're projecting Harrison, Soto, obviously a big stick. Castro, Bell, Gomes, Parra, Escobar, and Robles. It gets rough pretty fast, and it's also a negative ballpark shift for Washington in general.
It's a park downgrade for them, and it's better weather. It's 10 degrees cooler with no wind blowing out in San Diego, and it's 10 degrees hotter with double-digit winds in New York. So it's not like either one's a bad play. It's not like Woodruff's bad. It's just Musgrove's not that much worse.
Yeah, I will say on FanDuel I'm more apt to get away from Woodruff just because the difference in price to Musgrove is more distinct for me. And if you really want to scrape the barrel, we'll talk about him soon enough, I'm sure. Tyler McGill is 6'2" on FanDuel, which you can just load it up, man. You can have a game stack in Wrigley. You can throw into Tease if you want to throw into Tease just for fun as like a one-off. Steve, I want to bring you in as far as your pitching thoughts here. Let's talk about Woodruff, because I think that's, again, for me, it's a big decision, and I get maybe not prioritizing him, but my brain tells me I should. I typically lean toward the quote-unquote safer. I know Cardi hates that, and I understand it, and it's even this year and with the sticky stuff and all that, and who knows what's going on. But I just feel better with Woodruff as my starting pitcher on DK in my cash games, at least. Your thoughts here, Stevie, as far as Woodruff first.
I mean, they're both such good plays. Me for tournaments, like, I'm all in on Woodruff. I'm fading Joe Musgrove, but I mean, in cash games, the savings is there. I'm hoping that people in tournaments like the ownership is a little off, and like Musgrove comes in a little bit higher than Woodruff because people don't want to pay up for him. But I mean, Woodruff's the best pitcher on the slate, in my opinion. He has one of the best pitchers umpires in baseball, Trip Gibson, behind the plate. That's a huge bump for him. And the Mets lineup's terrible. So
it's improving, but it's been underwhelming.
I'm going to take umbrage with that, because the Mets lineup at times this year has been terrible.
It's better, but
the Mets are almost healthy now. They're only missing a couple guys. Like, there is not a single bad guy in this lineup aside from like James McCann and VR. But like, Nimmo's healthy, Conforto's healthy, Alonso's healthy, McNeil is healthy. Like, this is an almost full strength Mets lineup that is one of the better offenses in the National League when they're full strength.
And they're still terrible. That's how bad the National League is. That's why the American League is where it's at. No, I mean, yeah, they're getting healthy, but you look at this lineup, there's only one guy with an ISO over 200 this season against right-hand pitching. It's Pete Alonso. Again, these guys have been hurt, but I mean, it's Citi Field too. It's a great ballpark for Woodruff. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I understand. I hear you, but again, I'm taking the talent. I'm taking the pitcher's umpire, and I really like Woodruff, but I completely understand why you would play Musgrove. I kind of like Max Fried in that range, and I think it's, something that could make you a little bit different today. Kind of looking at Max Fried instead of Musgrove, the bottom of this order for Pittsburgh today. You guys are talking about bad lineups. The bottom of the order for the Pittsburgh lineup is absolute trash. The top of the order, not bad. Hayes, Reynolds, Stallings, not bad hitters, but the bottom of this order is really trash. So I think if Fried can get around these top couple guys, he can throw 90 really good pitches today against this team and have a really strong outing.
It is somewhat of a contact-heavy lineup there for Pittsburgh. Not a lot of punch, but they do make contact.
Very low strikeout.
Newman, in 112 plate appearances, the last 2 seasons versus lefties, he strikes out 5.4% of the time. Cardi, what do you have on Nagowski? What do you have for me on Nagowski? Is the number 5 hitter, which kind of speaks to the depth of this lineup. John Nagowski, the first baseman, very, very limited at bats. He hasn't struck out in 5, but do you have anything as far as projections? Does the bat have anything on John Nagowski?
Yeah, I mean, he projects as a well below average hitter, as you would expect, but also below average for strikeouts. Like, this is a guy who, up until AAA this year, had never struck out more than with a higher strikeout rate than 12% at any level. So this is a guy who, again, is great for run suppression, but this is one of the lowest strikeout lineups we've ever seen from Pittsburgh this year.
That is my concern as well. And then Fried's not a great strikeout pitcher either. And also, there's probably it's the hint of concern. I don't know if you guys, what do you guys see? 90 pitches, 74 his first start out. We usually go up about 15 or so. Is 90 a reasonable number, assuming things are going fairly well? But maybe he gets the hook at 84, 85. What are you seeing, Stevie, as far as the leash for Fried today?
I think it's back to around 90. I think it's more of 6 innings. I think that's especially if the Braves are putting it on the Pirates, we kind of project today. Then I feel like if he's 6 clean innings, but if you guys are saying we're going to get a bunch of contact, he's going to throw a complete game shutout in 75 pitches today. So there we go.
Yeah, he can do the tricky thing is, though, if he gives with that 3-run homer, he doesn't have the ability to make up.
Who's going to hit the 3-run homer, Dean? There's going to be nobody on base. They're all going to hit ground balls to second base and shortstop, and we're just going to see defense played by Atlanta today.
Hayes and Reynolds are legit hitters. Those are good major league players, but
so is Frazier. Not necessarily for power, but he's a legit hitter.
That's starting all-star.
You guys are making my point for me on Max Fried. I'm just gonna sit over here and drink my beer.
Stallings is the cleanup hitter, by the way. Just noticed that now. Stallings, Joe Madden's jealous of the cleanup hitter for Stallings, Nagowski, Gamble, Newman, and Evans. Whoa, you're right. I mean, it's rough. But those guys they're gonna pop out and they're gonna ground out and they're probably not gonna strike out a ton. And
if the pitching slate was better and we had a bunch of guys that could go 25 to 35, then I wouldn't be even looking at Max Fried. But there's 3 guys that can go over 30 today, if that.
Yeah.
What about Allard? Who wants to speak at Allard? I saw something in the chat talk about Allard. I did my rankings today. He certainly cracked the top 6. I don't have a great read on Allard. I think he's fine, but fine might be good enough, right, Cardi?
On this slate, yeah, fine is more than good enough. On this slate, fine makes you the 4th best pitcher on the slate because that's where Allard ranks in the bat. It's not a great projection. He's not a great pitcher, but it's a good matchup against Detroit. A little bit of a park downgrade for them. Positive on the weather side. Detroit's bad. Detroit, I got to look at their lineup, but it's very, very strikeout heavy lineup. So I have no problem with Allard today. Oh, and extreme pitchers umpire and a great pitch framing catcher.
Yeah, I should have mentioned the extremes. Jerry Meals is umping the Minnesota-Chicago game, extreme hitters umpire, which I think that's my favorite game. The White Sox are my favorite pivot away from all the good stuff for tournaments. We'll dig into that obviously soon enough, but I think the White Sox are going to be mostly ignored. In the expert survey today, my bold call, I don't know, you guys tell me how bold this one is. I think the White Sox had the most home runs today. If you're going to pick a team, I mean, everybody's going to go to Wrigley, obviously, but I don't know. Ober's got talent, but he's been roughed up pretty good. They saw this guy already. That Minnesota bullpen's not great. They're locked in for 9 innings. There's some just absolute power hitters on that Chicago side. I don't know. Stevie, you were in the expert survey. What was your bold call?
My hot take was Kansas City hits at least 3 home runs. So,
all right.
I mean, we're kind of on the same wavelength as far as just looking for some home runs today. And I think that's what we're really going to be looking at. I mean, Joe West is umpiring today, and to make
what do you do with him? He's a neutral game.
Joe West is not neutral. I don't care what the bat says, Cardi. He's a terrible umpire.
Well, he'll call terrible. He'll call strikes balls. And
I guess that's true. What Joe West are we getting today?
Neutral doesn't mean he's a good umpire. He can be bad, but in both directions, so it evens out.
That is
like the
true.
Angel Hernandez phenomenon.
Oh gosh, Joe West, he's still umpiring.
The union's too strong. They got to break down. I mean, I'm pro-union. That's a general thought, but
no robot umpires.
They
No,
that's get rid of this. The umpire is too strong for the union. Whatever. All right. The other extremes, by the way, Woodruff has an extreme pitchers umpire, as does Willie Peralta. Who cares? Aller, extreme pitcher umpire, like Cardi was saying. And all right, let's talk about Tyler McGill, because we mentioned him on FanDuel as being a way to like let up all the bats, and as an SB2. Better price on FanDuel than it is on DK, but DK 7-2 on this slate. Sure, I mean we've seen some Ks out of him, in the majors, plenty of Ks in the minors. Cardi, is he somebody you would consider for cash as an SB2 on DK, or is he more like a pivot for tournaments?
No, I think if you're not playing Tyler McGill in cash, you're doing something super, super wrong,
Wow.
especially on DraftKings. But I think on FanDuel, honestly, you can fade Woodruff and Musgrove, and you can play McGill. And I have no problem doing that. He's not a bad pitcher. Like you said, like his minor league numbers have been pretty good. The bat thinks he's a slightly above average pitcher. You look at Fangraphs, Steamer thinks he's like a ridiculously good pitcher. And he's cheap in a good matchup. Like Milwaukee is getting a pretty significant park downgrade here. And he's cheap. He's cheap. He's got the good umpire. He's not going to go super deep into the game, but for his price, you really don't need him to. So play him definitely as your SP2 on DraftKings, whether you're doing Woodruff or Musgrove. And he's 6'2" on FanDuel. Like you can do that. You can.
How deep does he go? How many pitches are we getting out of him?
The bat says 89.
Okay.
But his baseline's 82, which is very low. He's getting boosted because it's a good matchup.
Steve, you got to take as far as McGill?
I mean, just because the Brewers were on a win streak doesn't mean the lineup has been fantastic. Even if you look at the last 30 days, if you want a smaller sample size, the guys that have been hitting the ball well are the middle of the order, and McGill, there's still strikeouts here. So, I mean, I'm with Cardi. I think in cash games, whether or not you want to go Musgrove or Woodruff, McGill is going to be like that chalky SP2 that kind of just makes Wrigley work. The guy has a ton of strikeout stuff. Said this on the morning grind. I'm going to say it again. My biggest concern with him is he's a 2-pitch pitcher. He has a fastball and a slider, and that's it. And I think anytime you have a guy like that, the third time through could always be dangerous. So I think you almost kind of want him to go like 80 instead of like 95 here as far as pitches, and just get that like 2-time through, go out there and get like 20 fantasy points and call it a night. Because you get those 2 pitches and that third time through, the odds of just getting hit harder just keep going up.
Yeah. Anytime you get a guy third time through, especially with fewer pitches, he does throw a changeup a little bit, but I'm kind of with you. If they kind of pull him after that, get 20 points, and that would be great. And you mentioned the strikeouts in this lineup. This is the most strikeout heavy lineup of the whole day.
Yeah.
Milwaukee right here. So this is definitely a great strikeout spot.
Hey, Carter, do you have just a take on Yelich? Why is he even terrible? Well, for her standards.
Hurt.
You think he's hurt?
That's what I think.
He's hurt, or he's just not good.
I mean, it's not like he's been bad. He's got a 360 WOBA this year. Like it's just not his MVP level from a couple years ago, which was always going to come down,
Yeah. Well, the other part of that is like when he had that MVP season, what was his home run, the fly ball rate was like 40% or something ridiculous like that.
That was never going to be sustainable.
Not a lot of fly balls, but any fly ball he hit was basically gone. It was like, it sounds like a prosperous number, right? I think it was like 38, 37, 39%. He did that basically for 2 seasons, the mid 30s or higher. I imagine that is lower this season. But yeah, and he was dealing with the back, and I don't know. The lineup's been hot, and he hasn't been the reason why necessarily. And he's still lurking, and he's still there. And the numbers tell you, like, the big numbers for so many years, the bigger sample tells you like he should be a guy to play. And I just stopped playing him essentially, and I haven't missed it. It's gonna happen one of these days, I'm sure. I imagine. But all right, we'll talk bats in a second. Do you want to say hello to chat once again? What's up, chat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We appreciate all that. And fire off some questions if you aren't aware. If you're new here, we're going to be I'll be asking the questions on your behalf. Devin's going to be pulling those questions, throwing them my way, and we'll be asking Cardi and Stevie later on in the show. If there's somebody we didn't talk about, you want us to expand on somebody, a certain stack, like why this, why that, this guy or that guy, all that good stuff, whatever's on your mind, feel free to fire it off. We'll do our best to get to it later on in the show. Cardi, give me the summary as far as pitchers.
You're playing McGill in your DraftKings cash games as your SP2. You're considering him for sure on FanDuel. And then you have Woodruff and Musgrove as the top two guys. I think you take the discount on Musgrove, but I'm fine if you want to play Woodruff. And then you're just mixing it up in GPPs. Guys like, Kobe Allard or, there's really not a lot to like beyond that. So I think a condensed pool tonight probably makes sense.
Stevie, anything to add there?
Don't be afraid to fade one of these top end guys. I don't think that there's really like I think you can fade Dylan Cease today, even though that like the matchup doesn't look bad on paper. I think you could fade Rich Hill today, and just kind of don't be afraid to take a shot on like Allard instead of like McGill, just in tournaments, and just kind of hope that neither one of them go nuts and some stuff happens. But again, like I love Brandon Woodruff today, and nothing's gonna change my mind.
I'm definitely gonna have a Cease lineup just because that Minnesota lineup it's rough. I know Rise is annoying because like he's a contact hitter, not a lot of power. Obviously, Polanco's another contact hitter too, but Larnack, he's still kind of figuring things out. Pretty raw, plenty of power, but he can strike out a good bit. Kirilloff, same deal. Sano, tons of strikeouts. Gordon, a lot of strikeouts. The catcher, Wordford, I still don't know how to pronounce that one for some reason. But, obviously they're without Garber. It's just a really, really weak Minnesota lineup today. It is hot. Last I checked, I believe, in Minnesota for what it's worth. But you also did the ball for at the matter. Let's see. What are we looking at? Yeah, 94. It's 94 in Minnesota. That's that's pretty hot. All right, hitters. Cardi, you're going to start. Catcher is actually good today. It's a 9-game slate. And catcher's good. It could have been better if Real Muto played. There's no Real Muto for Philadelphia. But otherwise, it feels like, I don't want to say opportunity cost a catcher, but it kind of sort of feels that way to me.
Yeah, it's not a bad catcher slate at all. Wilson Contreras is clearly the cream of the crop here. Like you said, if we had Real Muto, he would have been right up there with him. But Contreras is hitting leadoff. He's got the platoon advantage against Moore. We have the great weather in Wrigley with the wind blowing out. And if you go McGill, especially if you're not spending up on Woodruff, like it's easy to get Contreras.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly the guy here. I think you can also make a case. Well, in cash, you can't make a case for anyone else. But like in GBPs, like Salvador Perez is really good. I think the Royals are one of the better teams tonight. Gutierrez is not good. He's getting the bad league shift going from the NL into the AL. He doesn't get the pitcher in the lineup anymore. So I like Royals a lot. I like Salvi. I guess you could punt with Knapp on the other side of that Wrigley game, but I just don't think you need it. I think you just pay up for Contreras.
Yeah, Gutierrez, the benefit pitching in the National League, still the second worst Sierra on this slate. Only Zach Davies is worse than him. And yeah, I think Casey gets to him as well. It's not a great Kansas City lineup. There's no Benintendi. There's no Mondesi, but it's still at least the front half is pretty solid. Stevie, catcher.
Who's cheap? Joan Heim against Peralta, batting fifth. I mean, he's your punt today. He's 2.5K. He's a switch hitter, so he should stay in the game. Doesn't matter who comes in. Outside of that, I mean, Vasquez, Stassi, Haas is a guy that I really like. He's going to be really low owned. He's been raking, and especially against left-handed pitching. So, I mean, if you're not going up to Contreras or Perez, they're clearly the top two options today. But if you're trying to save money at catcher, I think Haas, Vasquez, or if you go all the way down to, I think it's Heim, all those guys are in play.
Yeah, I think Heim's really interesting. I think Rangers are an interesting off the board stack today. And I think the Twins are too with Rortvet in that same range.
If the price was the same and the ownership was the same, do you prefer Heim over Knapp? They're basically the same price.
I do. But it's more of like I'm stacking Philly and I don't have room for a nap.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you're gonna have 5 guys, he's not the one. Not one of the 5 you're prioritizing, obviously. And there's probably, if the situation calls for it, Philadelphia's down by a couple in the 8th inning, and Knapp's coming up. You best believe a Realmuto is gonna take that at bat. Like that's likely to happen unless he's. Well, wait, did he actually hurt his thumb? Is that somebody else I'm thinking of? I think it's just a day off, right? I'm pretty sure he's fine. First base, Stevie. What do you have at first?
I mean, obviously Rizzo in a great spot, Hoskins in a great spot. I think those are the top 2 plays here. If you have the money, Freddie Freeman is in a great spot. Atlanta's just in a great spot. I don't want us to feel like we're overlooking that. I like O'Hearn. You can use him in the outfield, though. I find myself using him more in the outfield today than at first base. So first base is a position that I'm spending up for the most part. I mean, there's a few cheap options. Dahlback against Suarez, if you want to go really down there. Gavin Sheets, he's a young, talented hitter. He's really cheap. But I think today you're trying to get Hoskins, Rizzo, Freeman. And then, I like Patrick Wisdom, but we'll talk about him when we get to third base.
That guy's got a lot of power. Cardi, what do you have for me as far as first?
Yeah, Freeman's probably better than either of the Wrigley guys. So I like him in GPPs. He's more expensive, but I like him. But in cash, I think you're playing Hoskins or you're playing Rizzo. On FanDuel, you can throw Contreras into that first base, catcher mix. And I think Freeman is a little more in play there price wise. But those are your cash guys. Stevie kind of mentioned Wisdom. I think he's a decent way to kind of mix up your Chicago stacks. If you're going cheap or if you're stacking them, Ryan O'Hearn is batting cleanup for KC. He's got the platoon advantage. He's 3.2K. He's going to be a really strong option. And so, yeah, that's I think what you're doing.
Just like Rizzo, it depends where you're shopping. Rizzo's 2.9 on FanDuel. Hoskins is 3K on FanDuel. Those are 2 really good prices. Wisdom is third base eligible on FanDuel. He's 2.6, but he's mid 4s on DK. It's really easy to get that game on FanDuel. Just the sort of kind of the point I'm making as well too. Also want to make the point that Matt Moore, throughout his career, Cardi, and you can attest to this. I imagine you can attest to this. Basically, I don't like a neutral pitcher as far as lefty versus rights. I was looking at his career numbers. Versus lefty, 17.9% as far as Ks, 333 WOBA, 425 slug, 1.16 homers per 9, 1.16 homers per 9 versus righties. Basically, and it's a little bit, it's essentially the same. I don't know if I pulled up the bat as well too. I think it says really small or minimal or none as far as the split there.
Yep, small split in the bat. So don't be afraid to attack him with a lefty if the price is right, or just to make your stack different or whatever. Totally fine to do that.
Yeah, that was, long story short, if a lot of, I have that mental block too, left on left sometimes, but not in this case. No, I'm perfectly fine running out some Rizzo. Stevie, set the stage for second.
Second base to me today is, I think Gene Segura is going to be that really chalky play, super cheap, facing Zach Davies, batting second, great hitting conditions, like we've already said a bunch of times here. If you want to get different, I think you can go Ozzie Albies. Whit Merrifield's another one. Kiki Hernandez should bat leadoff. We haven't talked about the Reds at all. The Reds are a little interesting against Minor in that game as well. But, Segura is really the guy. I'm sure that's who Cardi's looking at in cash games. He's in a really good spot. And, I don't really see a reason not to look at him, batting second.
Cardi?
Yeah. I love Segura, obviously. He's so good. He's hitting second. The thing I really love about the Phillies today, we've seen some Wrigley win games this year where it hasn't worked out the way we kind of want it to. And a lot of that sometimes seems to be because the pitcher's striking guys out. And if you're not putting the ball in play, you can't take advantage of the wind. Zach Davies is about as pitch to contact as you can get. And so the Phillies, I really, really do like today for that reason. They should theoretically have a much greater chance of being able to capitalize on this wind. And Segura is just way too cheap. Whit Merrifield, I think, is also very much in play. On DraftKings, it's a huge gap. It's like a $2,000 difference. So you're not going to play Whit on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, it's smaller. It's like 1,000. And pricing is always so soft there. Like you can get Rizzo for under 3K. So like you're going to have money. Whit Merrifield is in a really good spot. He's leading off for KC. We mentioned liking them. The weather's really good. The cross league shift for Gutierrez. So those are the two guys that I like the most here. And then you're just kind of playing guys, to be different or in stacks. Like Jorge Polanco and the Twins, I think, are kind of sneaky today. So, so I like some of him. Nick Solak is interesting enough. I think the Rangers are kind of sneaky. Like stuff like that, I think is, the way I'd be looking to get different.
We mentioned Gutierrez not being good. He's also been terrible holding on runners. He's given up 7 stolen bases so far in like 35 innings. Whit Merrifield, I believe he's the leader in baseball as far as stolen bases at 23.
Yeah.
Always a strong jack-in-the-bag potential guy. The power hasn't been great this year, only 8 homers, but 23 stolen bases. If he gets on, like he's going. Like that's it. Like
yeah, Gutierrez is very bad at preventing steals. He's actually, I'm looking at today's guys. He's like on par with John Lester. So that'll tell you something.
Lester's improved over the years, though. Like, but that by his standards, he's improved, but he's still terrible as far as holding on runners.
John Lester is awful.
We always say that, and we always stack against him, and it never works out. But it gives it a little bit. We'll talk about the Padres soon enough, I'm sure. Hot corner, third base, Cardi, set the stage for us.
Chris Bryant is, clearly the top guy here. Hitting second, platoon advantage against Moore. We got the Wrigley win. We don't need to talk about it more. Bryant is awesome. You're going to be playing him in your cash games pretty much no matter what site you're playing on. But there's ways to get different. Patrick Wisdom is one of those ways to make your Cubs stack different here. He's $100 more than Bryant on DraftKings. So like I'd imagine the ownership gap is going to be pretty stark there. But I like the Padres quite a bit as a pivot stack off of Wrigley. Manny Machado hitting cleanup with platoon advantage against Leicester is really, really nice here. So I like Machado quite a bit. I think Austin Riley in a Brave stack is pretty nice. In terms of like cheaper guys, we have Hunter Dozier, 2.9 for the Royals. We have Luis Arias, 3.5 hitting leadoff from Minnesota. So I think you're just doing, stuff like that if you're not playing this Wrigley game.
Yeah, I mean, again, that Wisdom thing is like DK specific. He's 2.6 on FanDuel, but you're right. He's first base and third base eligible. So if you're playing Wisdom and you're stacking the Cubs, that means you're leaving out either Bryant or Rizzo, which of course you can. But that's one way, Stevie, I would imagine. Like Wisdom's he's not gonna hold the ownership that Bryant and Rizzo do. Like that's just not gonna happen.
I mean, you just play them both. You can play Wisdom at third base or first base. You play Wisdom at first base and don't play Rizzo, you make your lineup really different right there. Or you could play all three of them because you could play Wisdom at third, Rizzo at first, and Bryant in the outfield.
Yeah,
so you could easily play all three of them, but I think Wisdom's going to be low enough owned that he just makes your Cubs stack different just by playing him. So if you play him and Bryant together and Rizzo, it makes your lineup already different as far as like stacking the Cubs. But I think Wisdom's one of the best home run plays today. Matt Moore, this just profiles as a really good spot for Wisdom. His biggest issue is strikeouts. Matt Moore's not a big strikeout guy. So, I mean, you just love this spot for the Cubs. And, we keep saying it. I really like the Machado Tatis combo in tournaments because they're so expensive that I don't think a lot of people are going to go that way. So I really like the Machado, and we're going to talk about shortstop. I really like Tatis. I really like that combo. Usually third base is a position that you could kind of find a couple cheap options, but I think the mid-range to upper tier is so good today that there's a lot of opportunity costs if you're not going up from like Riley or Suarez up today.
A big whip by me. Of course, you guys, thanks for pointing it out. That Bryant throwing the outfield, Wisdom at third, Rizzo at first. That takes care of all three.
I got you, Dean.
I saw Wisdom hit like the longest ball I've ever seen hit in Milwaukee. I don't know if you saw it like a week or two ago. It may have just landed. It was incredible. And I'm like, this guy's got ridiculous power there. And then Milwaukee went on to win that game, scoring 10 runs in the bottom of the eighth. I believe the Milwaukee stack got there. So good for them. Shortstop. Yeah, let me ask you this, Cardi, as we get the shortstop, because of course, Baez will, it's in Wrigley. But I watch these games. I watch these Wrigley win games. I feel like Baez knows when the wind's blowing out and he just swings a little bit extra hard. And this is like that totally is just my own like observation. He swings hard as is. He just doesn't care, whatever the count is. He's doing his best to bang it out, but he's one of those guys that knows when the wind's blowing out. But I'm just curious your thought. In the different positions, you can get either Tatis or Acuna. Which would you prefer as like a building block or like a way to be? I don't want to say different necessarily because those guys aren't sneaky, but away from the Wrigley game.
It's tough because they're both really good. And on FanDuel, I think it's easy enough to get both of them in your cash games. I think you can pretty easily do that, especially if you go McGill. I think I'd lean Tatis, but it's close. But Tatis is in such a good spot. Platoon advantage against Lester. It's Lester. The stolen base potential, even if he's not, donging off Lester, he draws a walk or he gets a single or whatever. Like, he can steal a base. There's just lots of ways for Tatis to rack up points here. So he's far and away the top option here and very much in play even for cash games.
Stevie, give me the pivots at shortstop.
Baez and Tatis are the two plays. If you want to get different, you could look at Xander Bogaerts. If you want to get different and play a hot bat, you could take a shot on Willy Adames against a chalkier pitcher. I don't love that, but he's going to be really, really low owned, and it creates leverage against McGill, so I don't hate that idea. But, Tatis and Baez are in just such great spots that I feel like you're trying to get those guys, and that's one of the reasons that you're looking at, like, McGill as an SP2, because you want to get these guys in there. So I think Tatis, one of the top hitters, if not the top hitter, as far as just looking at stats and what he could do on this slate. And there's not a ton of cheap options. I guess maybe Ahmad Rosario batting second against Rich Hill is not a bad option. They're on the road, so you're guaranteed 9 innings for that. But a shortstop
on Hill too. That's a good stolen base spot.
Yeah, you kind of want to pay up at shortstop today.
Gregorius. Did we mention Gregorius?
We haven't.
No, we didn't. Good call, Dino.
There you go. By the way, I this caught me. I was before the show. I'm like, oh wait, why did Tampa cancel their game? Like, they're canceling the game tomorrow night. If you happen to see, the game is being preemptively canceled tomorrow because Hurricane Elsa is lurking. Hope Stevie, stay safe. I don't know how close you are to that, but
dude, it's a tropical storm. Be sitting out on the porch with a beer, watching it. Like,
has it been downgraded already? I know.
It has.
Yeah, it's already a tropical storm.
All right. Well, if it just sits there for a while, though, but yeah, I don't know. I have been following it as well.
I'm gonna go play golf in it because that's what you do.
Well, hope everybody stays safe. They did cancel the game tomorrow night, maybe as a precaution. Hopefully, that's the whole deal. All right, let's knock out some outfielders. We'll talk to the chat as far as see what their questions are. We have a whole bunch lined up. We'll do our best to knock it out as many as possible, if not all of them. Stevie, set the stage. Why do I keep saying set the stage? What did I watch that put that in my head? Stevie, give me your favorite outfielders tonight.
Bryce Harper is my favorite play on the entire slate. I love Bryce Harper today. He has terrible BVP, Cardi. I don't know how we could do this. I told you I was looking for a BVP play today.
And you're giving me an anti-BVP play.
I know. I wanted to switch it up today, but I love this spot for Harper. We've talked about the wind and everything enough. There's a bunch of good plays. You have Ronald Acuna if you want to go up to the top. Chris Bryant, we talked about him already. Joey Gallo is in a fantastic spot if you're trying to chase some home runs. He has a ton of home run upside. McCutchen. One guy that I did want to mention is Brian Goodwin. He's really cheap, and he's been hitting the ball really well, and he gets a matchup against Ober. And then if you're playing on DraftKings, Daz Cameron is batting 6th. He's minimum salary. And David Dahl is batting 7th, and he's 2.3K. So there's a couple of just full-on punts that you could be looking at when you're looking at outfielders on DraftKings that are actually not in bad spots. Eli White's batting leadoff today for Texas, so a lot of cheap options.
Prototypical leadoff hitter Eli White. Cardi, knock out the ones you didn't talk about or some you want to emphasize there as far as the outfielders.
Yeah, he mentioned Harper, mentioned McCutchen, but Odubel Herrera is a really good play. Also for Philly, all of the Royals outfielders, Soler, Dozier, Michael A. Taylor is cheap. Like, they're fine. Ronald Acuna to get away from the main games, like, he's a really good play. Marisnik's cheap enough Cub in Wrigley. Trevor Larnach, I think, again, I think there's value on the Twins today. So guys like him, I think, are good. over on FanDuel, Tommy Pham and Will Myers are always a lot cheaper than they are on DraftKings. So like you can play a Padre stack, you can play them as one-offs, but they're against Leicester too. Pham can steal, Myers can even steal. So it's a good spot for both of them. Yeah.
Why not just lead up Joey Gallo? Like, what's the point? Like, just lead him off. Like, I don't know. He's their best hitter. He can homer. He actually is patient enough to draw a walk. All right, let's knock out some questions here from chat. We're gonna play the stack game again. A reminder: 1 if you don't like them at all, 5 if you love them, 3 if you're in the middle. You guys can figure out how this works. Stevie, you're batting first, and then Carter, you follow up. Stevie, the Mets, 1 through 5.
How much
are you ranking?
1 through 5, 1 being the worst, right?
Yes, sir.
1.
Yeah, that's a 1 for me too.
Cincinnati, we haven't talked about it all.
I mean, to get different, I would say tournament-wise, maybe a 3.
That's what's going on. Alejo Lopez is leading off there. India's not playing baseball. I guess he was a late scratch. I just noticed that. Like, why is Lopez leading off? India got scratched at some point. Does that change things for you, Cardi?
I think you can call him, a 2 or a 3 here. Like it's a decent enough spot. I would imagine Lopez is pretty cheap, right? So I think they're fine enough. They wouldn't be a top option, but they're an option.
Very little pop in that bat. I think he's a contact guy, Alejo. All right. Am I crazy? This is us for Stevie. Am I crazy to fade Woodruff and play Cease instead? I say no. I don't think that's crazy at all.
I mean, you're looking at a guy that's 40% owned compared to a guy that's probably going to be 5% owned. So, I mean, it's not like all these pitchers aren't playable. I mean, I don't love Cease. He doesn't project well in like any projection model that I've looked at today. But if you want to get different, I completely understand it when you're looking at this Minnesota lineup. But I just like Max Fried instead. But I like Woodruff.
Carter, you like the pairing of Musgrove and Fried in tournaments?
I think it's fine. My biggest concern with Fried is that he has a hard cap. Like he's not going to go above probably 90 pitches today. And in a tournament, especially against the low K offense, like I do worry if the upside is there.
Stevie, strategy question. DK, GPP, if I'm stacking a team other than chalk, like other than Chicago or Philadelphia, would you one-off a bat from that game or just completely fade it?
I mean,
like a one-off Harper, you go with that?
I'm okay with it. I feel like if you're stacking a team that's not chalk, you're gonna be different anyway. But then you're just like you're playing a chalky option too, so it's like you're kind of trying to leverage off of the chalk. So if you're gonna one-off a chalk option, it's not gonna really give you the leverage that you're hoping for. Like if you're not stacking the Cubs or Philly today, you're hoping the game ends like 3-2 with a bunch of like singles and doubles. And if you're stacking like Boston instead, you're hoping they hit 3 or 4 home runs and kind of just outscore that chalky team. So I don't hate the idea of like using a chalky one-off, but I mean, if you're going to try to create the leverage. Don't play the chalky stack.
All right, lightning round. Got to pick up the pace here. Cardi, I mean, it's kind of a trick question. Abreu or Rizzo? Like, I think Rizzo's the better play, but Abreu is a better ownership play. Who do you prefer amongst those two?
I mean, again, like you said, it's exactly that. I prefer Rizzo, though. I don't think Abreu is like especially awesome today.
Lightning round. Stevie, any interest in Rich Hill for tournaments?
No, somebody just said Paul McBeth is overrated. I'm super distracted. He's the best disc golfer in the world.
I was like, who is Paul McBeth? Is he leading off? Is he?
Oh my gosh, you don't know who Paul McBeth is?
I have no idea.
He just made a $10 million or $10 million for 10-year contract. Come on, Dean.
Wow, good for. I mean,
I am tilted, Devin.
I'm more of a Frolf guy.
Whoa.
The roof is closed in Texas per the tweet from the Texas guy. So Cardi, if I'm going to play McGill on FanDuel, what's the top stack to run with them?
I mean, he's probably going to be lower owned than Musgrove and Woodruff, right? So you can play a chalkier Wrigley stack, right? I think that's the move.
I think those are going to be the 3 guys that get ownership. I don't think McGill's sneaking up on anybody on FanDuel. Like he's gonna get his fair share.
Well, then run a Padre stack.
I like that. Thoughts on Davies and GPPs? Anybody like it? I don't.
No.
I'm assuming it's a no.
I'm gonna pass. He has been pitching a little bit better over the last like month or so. Like he's been able to like He's striking people out at a higher clip, but the walks are still there. The xFIP and Sierra are still high. So I don't really want to consider that as like pitching better until like we see those walk numbers go down. He's still struggling with command enough for me not to have interest in him.
Cardi, you're hypothetically running 150 lineups tonight. How many have Gutierrez?
0.
Any interest in Jace Peterson for 3.9K? I have none. Anybody?
No.
No, I'd play one of those like punt outfielders first.
Hey, I'm just asking. Don't get mad at me. I'm just asking.
I'm not getting mad, Dean. Just telling you what I would do instead. No. I'm trying to help the listeners.
We didn't talk about Mike Minor. He's kind of one of those guys like I don't really have to pick on, but I don't really want to roster either. Cardi, Minor, interesting, man.
I mean, I guess on this slate, maybe, but only because the slate's bad.
Anybody like Franmil Reyes? Nobody's going to play him. A lot of power.
He's back, yeah, sure.
He's fine, I guess.
Let's give a couple homers to the people before we step aside and get out of here. Cardi, one more question. Is there a daily option for the bat? I don't think there is. Is there?
Yeah, there is. You can try it out for a day. Small sample size, warnings apply.
I thought that was the reason why there wasn't one.
Like, honestly, like, all right, I give Cardi a lot of crap, but you have one of the best, if not the best projection model out there. So just use it. Like, it will pay for itself, especially if you're using optimals and looking at lineups every day. It pays for itself.
Give me a couple homers, Stevie. Two guys that are going to go yard, be as ambitious as you want to be.
Let me go with Patrick Wisdom and Eric Haas.
Haas hit that inside the Parker the other day. What do you have for me, Cardi?
Stole my wisdom. Let's go outside of Wrigley. Let's do Acuna and Soler.
I'm going to say Gavin Cheats as a cheapie, and Rizzo left on left. I'm going to call the shot. Like, I'm not at the bullpen. That doesn't count. Only if it's against Matt Moore. I'm going to say in the first two at bats because Moore doesn't get him a third time. I'll take Rizzo and Cheats. That is the show. Do subscribe, turn on notifications on your way out. If you guys are premium members, get on over to rotogrinders.com, get yourself some crunch time today. Kevin Roth will be there with the weather, a couple experts. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Cheese. Maybe it's STL Cards. Cheese and Andre. Oh, there you go. That's a good combination. Great combination for tournaments. Andre takes everything down, and Cheese is he's won a couple million a couple times. So there you go. All right, we got to go. Devin's got to set up the next show. That was Cardi. Check out the bat, even for one day. Small sample size warnings do apply. And Stevie, check out the NASCAR package. I was Dean. This was baseball. We're out of here.